Hi everyone, welcome to Maximum Attack Rallying. We are back. It is a new week. It is rally week, and I'm sure fans in Croatia are very happy indeed because they are also back, because their rally is back in the WRC after a 1-year hiatus where it dropped to the European Championship. This should have been the first proper tarmac rally of the year, but there has been some interesting weather in the region of the rally recently, and comparisons have been made to Monte Carlo. Toyota even had some snow for some of their pre-event tests. That looks unlikely this week from the forecasts I have seen. We've moved from Zagreb to a new host city of Rijeka. That's on the coast. The temperatures, from what I've seen this week, actually look to be in the mid-teens, so it is a little bit warmer than perhaps it was when Toyota were testing a little while ago. Don't think that's going to make it easy, though. This is a very, very difficult rally indeed. Lots of mud and scumminess to be dragged onto the roads, which could make things very, very changeable. Like I said, the forecast seems okay. Temperatures seem okay, but there are going to be some quite big altitude changes on this one. So where the forecast looks good in one place, it could be very different somewhere else, so that could make for varying conditions and some perhaps unexpected rainfall. I did see some forecast rain on one website for Sunday, so we'll have to wait and see, won't we? If you are a weather obsessive, this is definitely one to keep an eye on the forecast for anyway, and I'm sure engineers and drivers will be pondering tyre choices if things start to look a bit tricky. In terms of the route, we have a smidge over 300 kilometres spread over 20 stages. Friday's the longest stage of the rally, 127 kilometres there. That's made up of 2 loops of 4 stages. That starts with the 12.12 kilometres of Vodice-Brest, then Lake Butonia-Mutoven at 13.78 kilometres, and the longest stage of the day, which is Berum, that's 23.78 kilometres, and then finally Uka, that's 11.75. Midday service is back at the Grobnik circuit where the main service park is, and obviously the crews go out and repeat those 4 stages. Saturday is a little bit shorter, 116 kilometres, same structure though pretty much, so 2 loops of 4 stages. No midday service on Saturday, however, just a tyre fitting zone in Karlovac. That takes the rally a little bit closer back to Zagreb where it was previously based. Saturday stages, like I said, there are 8 in total, 2 loops of 4, so you've got Platak 16.26 kilometres, Ravna Gora 10.13, Generalski Stol, which is the longest, that's 22.48 kilometres, and then Perku Kovu, which is 9.11. I hope I haven't butchered those too much. There are longer names than that, but I'm just trying to keep it short. Sunday, short day, obviously just 57 kilometres, 2 stages, run twice. So both are around 14 kilometres. So you've got Briva and then Alan. The latter is obviously the power stage, of course. So a short day as always on Sunday. Wouldn't it be nice if Sundays were a bit longer? I still don't understand why the bulk of the mileage of a rally is on a Friday when most people are at work. I understand why they want to finish in the afternoon, but why not start at Friday lunchtime to make Sunday a bit longer? Anyway, that is perhaps a topic for another video. Let's get into the meat of it then, and who will win. And I'm actually going to start with WRC 2 because I read on the WRC website a few days ago that Taylor Gill and co-driver Daniel Burkic have trailered their GR Yaris Rally 2 all the way from Finland for this event, which I think is very interesting and is a rather nice story. So most drivers, what they would do is the team would handle all of the logistics and the drivers would just fly in, show up, do the recce, do the rally and leave again. But Gill has been working really, really hard to raise funds to compete this year. I think he finished second in juniors last year, didn't he? So he's trying to move up to WRC 2, struggling a little bit with the budget, which a lot of drivers do. So fair play. They have picked the car up themselves from Finland, put it into a trailer and are taking it all the way to Italy for Delta Rallying, who will do the pre-event prep, convert the car from gravel to tarmac spec, run the test and things, and then obviously run them for the rally. That, for me, the reason I started with that is a great story. That is a really great story, not only because it shows the lengths that some drivers will go to and have to go to compete at WRC level, but it does, it shows that it's not all just jetting around and, like I said, just flying in, doing the rally and leaving again. And I think also, it shows that these are the kind of stories that we should be seeing, doesn't it? These are the kinds of stories that we should be seeing in the background. And as I said in a social post the other day, this is just the kind of thing that should be covered on Rally TV or in the highlights package, as well as just the stage action. You know, those are the kinds of stories that will sell the sport to people. So I wanted to mention that because I thought it was interesting and it's a story that should be told. So well done for that, Taylor and Daniel. I hope you have a good weekend and it is worth that very long drive. Just wrapping up the rest of the WRC2 field, though, it's going to be a very tough weekend for Gil, I think, because this entry contains some very, very fast WRC2 crews. Indeed, it is a really strong field. So Leo Russell is actually the top seed in WRC2 in a Citroen. But to be honest, it almost gets stronger as you move down the order. You've got Rupert Cornahan, Roberto Dapper in second and third. Then further down still, you've got some really big names: Eric Kammerly, Andreas Mikkelsen, Nikolai Greisin, Johan Russell, Alejandro Cachon, Emil Lindholm, Robert Jurgensen, Milo Johansson, Kaitan Kaitanovic, and Pablo Sarrazin. Oh my lord, how many potential winners are there on that list? How many? That is a strong entry. It is not the biggest WRC2 entry in total. I can't remember how many there are in total, sorry. But that is a tough one. I think for me, Greisin and Russell in the Lancias probably jump out. Good tarmac car, the Lancia. Obviously, we haven't seen too much of it on gravel yet. Mikkelsen is, he's a reliable bet, obviously in the Skoda. Speaking of betting, if I had to bet, I'm going to go for Greisin. But honestly, if you pick someone else, I would not blame you. Like I said, that is an extremely strong entry. There are lots and lots of very capable names in there. So I'm going to back Greisin, but pick one. Really pick one, I think, in WRC2. On to Rally 1 then, and to the top category. Of course, it is Toyota's leading the way. Championship leader Elfyn Evans at the front, followed by Oliver Solberg and Takamoto Katsuta. Then you've got Adrien Fourmont in the first Hyundai, then Sami Payari, then Thierry Neuville, and then the Pumas of John Armstrong and Josh McAlean. Final Rally 1 entry is Hayden Paddon, who returns after a little break while Esa-Pekka Lappi took over the car for a couple of events. I think the big story in Rally 1 is probably the fact that Sebastien Ogier has chosen not to do this rally as one of his, 9 he's planning on doing this year, isn't he, 9 or 10? I think that's an interesting move, to be honest. He maybe didn't want to start further down the order on what is quite a tricky event, but, I mean, he won this rally back in 2024, so for me, this seems a slightly odd one for him to miss, but I kind of get the sense that if you listen to what he's been saying in interviews recently, that he thinks that the championship is a bit of an outsider this year, that he was very lucky last year with how things played out that allowed him to win the title. So, I think this is a rally that he would have seen himself having a good chance of winning potentially, but I don't know, maybe he's just not that bothered. I don't know, a bit of a weird one that, but that's not the important thing. We need to talk about who is there. So, it's got to go to someone, hasn't it? The only other previous winner in WRC terms is Elfyn Evans, so he won it 2023, was it? I think. If the roads deteriorate, which is very, very possible in Croatia, he could find himself in a very strong position. Obviously, opening the road, he will be the man that gets to drag all of the mud out for everyone else. So maybe he will be making his Yaris as wide as possible, and he will be keen to extend his championship lead, won't he, over Oliver Solberg. It is between those two for me. Yeah, I have to say, I think it is very difficult to see anyone else winning. I admit that is not a very brave prediction, but yeah, I think it's hard to see. It's just hard to see past those two, isn't it? Elfyn is very, very good on tarmac. Oliver did a really, really good job in Monte Carlo. Obviously, won that rally on his full-time Rally 1 Toyota debut. If I had to pick someone, I have a sense that it might be Elfyn. He hasn't looked as good as he did in the early part of 2025, where he was super consistent and racked up a load of points and looked very, very fast and very in control. But he's still leading the championship, isn't he? He's still at the front and he's generally quick on tarmac. He goes well in quite tricky conditions, so I don't know. I just feel like he might lay down a little bit of a marker this weekend and win this rally. That said, while my prediction about the top of the leaderboard is not that exciting, I do think the battle further down the order could be very interesting. Maybe for the lower end of the podium, maybe even for 4th, 5th, that kind of area. We're in a very strange situation, aren't we? The Hyundai has not exactly shined so far this year. I think Thierry Neuville finished 3rd in Croatia in 2024. He desperately needs to get his season moving. I think he's currently 7th in the overall championship standings. You've got Katsuta, haven't you? Obviously fresh off the back of his win at Safari. I think the harsh reality is that Neuville and Adrian Formeau are probably going to struggle to beat Katsuta. You know, Katsuta goes well again in slippery conditions on tarmac. He's been fast in Japan before, so this could suit him. Obviously, he's going to be in a really positive place, you would hope, after winning Safari. So that could make things even harder for Hyundai. And I think if we see another Toyota podium whitewash, then man, I think, you know, the season is looking very, very bleak indeed for Hyundai. I think the reality is that in a way they both just have to send it. They both just have to go absolutely all out and just try and do something. You know, they've got Padden. Padden is there to score points. He's the backup, so you know, maybe it is just time to try and hang it out, take some risks, and see if they can actually get a result. Because right now it looks like this season is just going to be complete and utter Toyota domination. We should talk about M Sport, shouldn't we? It's not been the best start in terms of results. There's been a few DNFs and incidents. What do we say about M Sport? I think it's safe to say that Armstrong has been the stronger of the two so far, isn't it? Even though it is his first season in a Rally 1 car, he is looking more comfortable than Josh McAleen. He set a second fastest time in Monte Carlo. Did he set another one in Safari? Second or third fastest, wasn't it? He seems quite bullish, doesn't he? I saw an interview with him on dirtfish.com, and he seems rather confident, and the team seem quite confident in him, whereas if you look at McAleen, you know, things are very different. He's had a very difficult start to the year and the team are still backing him, but I think there's a bit more pressure, isn't there? I don't think anything is going to come of this weekend for McAleen. I think all he can do this weekend for me is just try and be solid. You know, he's had a really bad start to the season. Not all his fault. You know, Monty was bad. He made a few mistakes, but, you know, Sweden and in Safari, there were a few car issues and things. So not his fault, but I think maybe just, you know, getting back on track would be a good place for him. Armstrong, I think, is a bit more interesting because he actually won this rally last year when it was part of the ERC, and he was going very, very well at the end of that championship and was in with a chance of winning it. So I don't think he's going to end up on the podium here. You know, I don't think that's a possibility. I think the Toyotas are too strong. But could there be a spot for him to claim his first fastest stage time this weekend? A rally that he is familiar with? It's possible. I think it's possible. You know, it would be a big thing, but I don't know. I think it's worth keeping an eye on Armstrong this weekend. Anyway, those are my predictions. So I think it's time for me to stop waffling and hand it over to you guys. Who do you think will win? Will it be Elfyn Evans? Will it be Oliver Solberg? Or will it be someone else entirely? Do let me know in the comments below. Perhaps while you're there, you could hit those like and subscribe buttons. We are slowly marching our way towards 5,000 subscribers. My goal is to hit 10,000 by the end of the year, which is perhaps ambitious, but I don't care. I'd be very grateful, of course, if you could help me in that journey. So every one of you that hits a button, it does make that job a little bit easier. So I'm very grateful for that. And of course, if you've just watched this far, I'm very grateful for that too. So as I said, let me know who you think is going to win in the top class, but also in WRC2 as well. Any other comments you want to share about the rally or rallying in general? I think the only thing left for me to say is thank you for watching, and we'll see what happens, won't we? So thank you again, and I will see you again next time.